You don't just get accused, convicted, and sentenced for child torture, then suddenly claim you care about the children's healing. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. So, when Jodi Hildebrandt stood in a courtroom and said she loved those kids, I almost fell over. Because Jodi Hildebrandt doesn't love children. Jodi Hildebrandt is like Ted Bundy. Long before she was a disgraced therapist, Jodi Hildebrandt built a brand for herself as a so-called life coach. And long before Ruby Frank, the now former YouTube mom of 8 passengers, was convicted of horrific child abuse, she was taking advice from Jodi. Now both women are behind bars, and a new lawsuit is exposing even more disturbing details. The shocking arrests of Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt. Back in August 2023, the world was stunned when Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt were arrested for aggravated child abuse. Why? Because on the surface, these women seemed like model citizens. Ruby Franke had built a massive online following, over 2 million subscribers on YouTube, by vlogging her seemingly picture-perfect family life. Jodi Hildebrandt ran a life coaching business called Connections, where she claimed to help people with mental fitness and self-improvement. But behind the scenes, they were monsters. The truth came out when Ruby's 12-year-old son escaped Jodi's multi-million-dollar home in Evans, Utah. He ran to a neighbor's house, covered in wounds, duct tape on his wrists and ankles, and severely emaciated. Police later found his sister inside Jodi's home, starved, malnourished, and with her hair chopped off. Officers didn't even recognize her as a girl at first. That's how bad it was. After their arrest, both Ruby and Jodi pleaded guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse each. Their sentences, anywhere from 4 to 30 years in prison. The Utah Parole Board will ultimately decide when or if they ever walk free. Ruby's confession versus Jodi's cold-blooded defense. During sentencing, Ruby admitted to the abuse. She claimed she was under Jodi's dark control and had finally seen the light. She said, "I am willing to serve a prison sentence as long as it takes to continue unraveling all of this information I have believed and acted out. I want my family and the community to heal." But Jodi, she showed zero remorse. In fact, she stood before the court and said, "I sincerely love these children. I desire for them to heal physically and emotionally." Excuse me? The same woman who tied up, starved, and tortured these kids now wants us to believe she loves them? A massive lawsuit exposes more horrors. And now, the horror story isn't over. A new lawsuit has been filed against Jodi, Ruby, Connections, and others, accusing them of running a criminal racketeering scheme. The plaintiff, Michael Tillman, claims Connections was never about helping people. Instead, it was a fraudulent business that lured in vulnerable individuals and pressured them into paying thousands for so-called therapy. Jodi didn't just abuse children. She manipulated adults too, controlling their lives and turning their own families against them. Even behind bars, Jodi's influence is still ruining lives. Tillman's lawsuit details disturbing new allegations that show just how deep this rabbit hole goes. More victims speak out. 2 key individuals in this lawsuit have already publicly spoken out about Jodi's abuse. Jodi Hildebrandt, Jodi's own niece. Forced to live with Jodi as a teenager, Jessie says they endured horrific abuse nearly identical to what Ruby's children suffered. Adam Steed, a former client, Adam says Jodi ruined his life, falsely labeling him a sex addict, conspiring with his ex-wife, and getting him kicked out of his church and university. In Adam's words, "Jodi went after me to destroy my life in the craziest way you could ever imagine. I had to come forward because when I saw what she did to those little kids, I knew it was totally predictable. How deep does this go? According to the lawsuit, Jodi Hildebrandt wasn't working alone. She allegedly had agents spying on victims to ensure they didn't escape. She used intense psychological manipulation to convince parents to cut off their own children. She even weaponized the Mormon church and legal system to destroy people's lives. And if that's true, this is more than just an abuse case. This could be one of the most twisted, cult-like criminal enterprises we've ever seen. What's next? As this lawsuit makes its way through federal court, all eyes are on the next move. The defendants have officially been served. If this goes to trial, expect explosive testimony from victims. And if the lawsuit succeeds, we could see millions in damages awarded and even more criminal charges filed. We'll be following every update as this case unfolds. That's all for now on Sidebar. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. See you next time.